Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Four Horsemen Show, Bonds Beyond Borders. I am Natasha, your host from Pakistan, and today I'm joined by three of my amazing friends Minhas from Bangladesh, Tahira from Sri Lanka, and Sagar from India. We are four friends who met during the US State Department's Professional Fellows Exchange Program in 2023. And since then, we have been on a mission to bridge the gaps between our nations, one conversation at a time. Today's episode is all about the PFP magic. Not the kind with wands and spells, but the magic of friendship, learning, and growth that change our lives during the Professional Fellows Program. As our amazing host Elanie once said, magic happens in the last days. But I believe it started from day one, and we actually saw its full effect at the end. Let's dive into the journey that brought us together.
Oh, I'm in love with today's topic, Nats. The Professional Fellows Program, or PFP, as our audience has heard in us mentioning this many times in our previous episodes. So let's discuss about the what was actually PFP for us.
Yes, Sagar. Just before we start, to provide an overview to our listeners about PFP, in 5 weeks, the carefully chosen fellows for all four countries, they come together and live in duplexes in the University of Oklahoma. So we worked, learned, played, and interacted deeply during this time frame with each other and other local businesses, organizations, and communities. In the final week, we headed to Washington for a week-long conference organized by the US State Department to share what we learned and to plan how to execute what we have learned in our businesses and communities once we return home. PFP fellows from many other countries who were invited by other host organizations like World Learning join us during this week at the conference too. 5 weeks gave us plenty of time to learn and grow as entrepreneurs, community leaders, and as people.
If you're thinking of getting yourself used to the American culture and how it gets done there, as well exchange your what happens in your part of the world and that part of the world, it's an amazing opportunity, and it's not something that you want to miss, I'd say. And it's a gigantic opportunity to meet, learn, network, and grow together with the world. And as for outcomes, it's a funny coincidence that this podcast, I'm bringing the fourth one now. So this podcast itself, the Four Horsemen Show, is also an outcome of that program, that PFP program.
Today, we are honored to have a special guest with us, Elanie Steyn. Elanie is the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, Associate Professor, and Gaylord Family Professor at the University of Oklahoma. She looks after the Professional Fellows Program and was our host and one of the key mentors during the Professional Fellows Program. We are excited to have her here to give us more insight into the program. Elanie, thank you so much for being here. Could you give our listeners a quick introduction about yourself and the program, please?
Hi, Natasha. Hi, everyone. Thank you, and I'm really happy to be here. It's an honor for me to talk to you and to share with other people, the audience, about what this program is. So the Professional Fellows Exchange Program is funded by the Department of State. And our specific program is designed for emerging leaders from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. And the focus of our program is economic empowerment, small business development, and social entrepreneurship. And other programs focus on other countries and other regions of the world, and also focus on other topics and other focus areas. But what makes PFP a special program for me, and we've been doing this since 2012, is, on the one hand, the hands-on experience that participants get by working with US organizations and learning how they operate, but at the same time also for US organizations to learn about people from other countries and other parts of the world, and to see how they do things there, and to get an insight into the culture, the business strategies, the way of life. And actually, it's a mix of an exchange of leadership, networking, and culture.
This takes me back to fond memories, Elanie. Is there any specific advice you'd like to give future applicants on how they could stand out during the selection process?
Absolutely, but let me say this first. The schedule for the program has changed based on requirements by the State Department. So where in the past we would have 2 exchanges, as you know, one group would come in May, June, like you guys did, and then another group would come in October and November of that same year. They have now changed it to where we only have 1 exchange per year. And in that exchange, instead of having 15 or 14 people, we now have between 25 and 28 people. So there's no actual application process happening now or very soon. The next application will probably be sometime, I would say, in maybe March or April of next year, because we now have a gap of no participants in Oklahoma until May of 2025. That's when the next round of people will be here. So that means that the group after them, for whom we've had applications, will open only sometime in March or April of next year. But to answer your question, it's important that people are authentic in how they apply, that they give us as much information as they possibly can. We've seen that people, for instance, they might be involved with several different businesses, but then they only focus on one business in the application. And when we do the interviews, they focus on something completely different. And that cannot happen. I mean, what we see on paper needs to be what you want to do when you get here. We get thousands of applications, literally. For a bigger country like Pakistan and India, we might get over 1,000 applications that we have to go through. So I would suggest that people don't use AI to write their applications, that people don't pay other people to write their applications, because no one can speak about what you do as well as you can speak yourself. So make sure you have a clear vision of what you want to do with your business, where you want to head in life. This is not a paid vacation to the US, so people have to be clear about what they want to achieve. Talk about what you want to change in your community. How will this experience impact not only you, but also a wider community that you are involved with?
Thank you so much, Elanie. You have worked closely with our cohort. What do you think of us? Did we meet your expectations?
Every group tries to catch me into this trap of theirs, because as you can expect, every group thinks they are the best group that we've ever had. And somehow, whether it's before the program, during the program, after the program, at the airport, when I cry and I'm at my most vulnerable, people would be like, oh, by the way, we were the best group, right? So somehow they always try to sneak in this question. So I've become, if my radar is up now, to listen out, to hear this, and to not fall into this trap. But the truth is, each group is unique, and each group brings its own set of unique energy to the program. And I use energy broadly, because, as you all know, there's positive and negative energy, but there's energy. So everyone wants to know whether they're the best. And what I know about your group is that there was very little disagreement that I know about anyway. There were few incidents. I mean, there were almost no incident where someone had to go out in the middle of the night or save someone or, go to the hospital or something like that. We had done. You guys bonded quickly, and I could see that the friendship you had was almost tangible from the very beginning. What I do know that stood out about your group was that this was the first group that where we had the final debriefing after the program in Norman was over. People really spilled their guts about what others meant to them and what they have learned from each other. And it is a session that I will never forget, not only because it took us forever to get through everyone's discussions, but also because it was so real and it was so, I could see how people are so connected with each other on levels that go beyond the actual program. It wasn't just, oh, we became friends and we had fun. People really knew about each other and they really wanted to be there for each other. And that is something that touched me deeply. And now I kind of have that expectation. I always have a lot of Kleenex available at the last debrief session because, you never know when there might be a group like your group again. But I think these aspects amplified the experience and made connections that will hopefully last for many, many years beyond the actual program. And I think, like you said earlier, this is one example of that connection. So that's my safe answer.
That
So beautifully articulated, I guess. Well, why should I say I guess? That was so beautiful, Elani. And well, I think in terms of that, some experiences are probably, best if those things happen only once in life. I mean, I don't want to restrict anything, but you know what I mean. But since you are here and in this show, in every episode, so we kind of like give our audience an elaborate picture of from our experience in the US from time to time. And, since we have the biggest prize here with us today, we have you in here. So I'm curious from our audience part. So can you share some stories about how this program has impacted other alumni from the past cohorts, not us? I mean, sometimes you gotta talk about second best as well, but yes, we want to hear some impactful stories from other cohorts as well.
Okay. I think if I really want to answer this question honestly and give a fair reflection on what this program has meant for people over the years. I mean, we've been doing this since 2012. We will need a lot more episodes because there are so many people who have gone back and who have done amazing things after being on the program. And I will be the last person to claim that the program is the reason, but I do know how the program has equipped people with skills that they didn't have before they have been on the program. So, like I said, we've done this since 2012, and initially our groups were somewhat smaller. And also, we only had, in the initial couple of programs, we only had Bangladesh as a country. So all participants came from the same country. And we've had that for a couple of years. We also had not only business professionals, but also media professionals. And then we started after request by the State Department that we expand the countries. I guess they thought that, we have to share the wealth among other South Asian countries and not just have Bangladesh as our favorite country that we always include. So we expanded and we included Nepal in the program as well. And then we did that for a couple of rounds. And then after that, we became 3 countries. We had also Burma, Myanmar at some point as a country, and then expanded to the 4-country model. So there's many stories and there's many inspiring alumni that I can think about. So like I said, I can go on forever. But one of the examples that I think stood out from our very first program was an entrepreneur from Bangladesh who used this program and the people he met here and the connections he made in the US to reshape the face of his garments factory. He was inspired by the social aspect and the management and motivation and people as resources aspect of the organization he was placed with. So he went back and he rethought the way he was treating his employees and the way he was running his factory. And a couple of years after returning from the program, he built the first LEED Platinum certified garment factory in Bangladesh. And they have now revisited the whole way of how they treat their employees. The women get fair wages, they get insurance of different kinds. He has programs that include, taking care of their children and taking care of their education. And they now export their garments to more than 40 high-end brands worldwide. And they're not only a garments factory anymore, they are now a business committed to quality and innovation and sustainability and committed to their employees as much as they are committed to their customers and the broader environment. Another example that I can think of is also someone who had been on our program earlier on. She is a woman from Nepal. And before she got here, we had several long conversations because she had a small child at home at that point, and she didn't want to leave her child for 5 weeks. She also didn't think that she would be able to be gone from her country and her family for such a long time. But one of the other alumni inspired her to go ahead with it and to actually do it. And after she returned to Nepal, she expanded her business. She had two focus areas of her business. One was in the hospitality industry, where she would hire women in all different levels of her bed and breakfast and her hotel. And she has now expanded that significantly to have various outlets across the country, especially in Kathmandu. And the other business she has is where they recycle rice bags. She has people picking up the rice bags from the street. They wash it, they clean it, they recycle, upcycle it into all sorts of different bags. And she now has more than 12 women working for her. And when I visited the factory a few years ago, right before COVID, actually, I met some of the women, and she explained how many of these women come from a background where they are in abusive relationships or where they have no way to support their families because they are in these relationships where they're not taken care of. So she takes them in, they provide fair wages to them, they support also their children with education, and now they export these bags to several countries around the world. And they have not only changed the way that they think about business, but also the way they empower women to have a voice and have an income and be independent.
That's amazing, Elanie. Inspiring stories. But what do you think are the most significant takeaways that participants walk away with after completing this program?
Sagar, I always tend to think that we have, and this is across years, there's three categories of people who complete the program. One group is a group of people who come on the program, they do their thing here, they go back, and we never hear from them again. We have no idea what kind of impact the program has had on them because we never hear from them again. Then there's like a middle group of people who keep in touch with us from time to time and give us updates on what they do and what the program had meant for them. And then there is the biggest group of the three, thankfully, who constantly keep in touch with us, who I exchange messages and calls and emails and just funny things on almost a daily basis. And you can imagine that there's hundreds of people who have gone through the program. These people keep us in the loop and update us on changes in their businesses, changes in their professional lives, changes in their personal lives. And that to me is great because that shows the impact I think that the program has on people who are here and also the connection we make with people. And I think the biggest takeaway that I would say people, this group of people especially, get from the program is that they discover who they are as people. Many people leave here not as someone's husband or someone's wife or someone's mother or daughter or son. They leave here as them. They are in an environment where things are so different from being back home, and it is kind of a vacation, even though it's not. But they discover themselves. They know what their strengths are, and they find out what makes them happy and what makes them feel fulfilled and what they want to see as aspirations for their lives. And I think that is the biggest thing someone can discover. And this is a different episode, but this is kind of what happened to me as well when I not only started working on the program, but very specifically on the stairs of a coffee shop in Dhaka when we were on an outbound exchange one year. But that's a different story. So I don't think I am an expert, and I definitely will not claim that I'm an expert of South Asia or the culture here, but I think I've worked enough with people over the years to know this, and this has a direct connection with your question. The expectation or expectations in your culture are very high. Families and parents and even the extended families have an expectation that children must have a certain job, they must get a certain degree, they must earn a certain amount of money. They should not only support themselves, but also their extended families. Many people have people deciding for them who they can marry and who they cannot be with. But having said all of that, I have seen that there's very little support often for people to achieve these expectations. And there's very little acknowledgement of who people are as themselves, who they are as leaders, who they are as change makers. And then I've seen so many times that when people come on a program like this, especially when we worked with students, they come here and suddenly they get seen for who they are, and people encourage them and people motivate them and people say to them, you can do this. Look at the good job you've done on whatever. Think about who you are as an individual. And through that, they get seen and they start seeing themselves. And then they go back changed because they not only they have like a counterbalance of this. Yes, these are the expectations, but this is what I can do to try and meet that expectation or to do something for myself. They go back and they think differently about their jobs and their families and the communities in which they live because they see themselves in a different light. They see themselves as people, and to me, that's why we do this program. That's the biggest takeaway, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. And then on top of that, there's the lifelong friendships and the networks that people establish, not only among the groups, but also with people back in the US. And those connections and friendships just keep going. I mean, a very recent example was two alumni from a program 10 years ago, literally, they one group in Nepal, one group in Bangladesh. And when the country went through its political instability just a few months ago, the Nepali flew out the entire workforce of this Bangladeshi company to Nepal. She set them up in her house. She accommodated them. She provided them internet access. They set up shop in Kathmandu because she said, come live with me and do your business from my house. And they did that because they couldn't do it from their home country.
Couldn't agree more. Like you said, that people discover themselves. So I'm the one that I discovered myself over there when I was on that program. From so long I was doing business on the break. Yeah, that changed a lot in me. And the alumni network keeps us connected even after the program ends. So, like said that I met Natasha in Dubai, or I met Tahira in Sri Lanka, and other people.
I am rolling my eyes as we speak.
So it's an amazing journey of both professional and personal growth, as you said.
Beautifully said, Elanie. And I think most of us discovered our true selves, our strengths, our weaknesses, and how experiences can change you as a person completely. One big last question for you, Elanie. Once the fellows are selected, the next big step is, matching them with the hosts in the US. Could you explain how you decide which fellow will be matched with which host, and what does the process look like?
Okay. That is a key part of the program, as you know, because the program itself requires this individually tailor-made professional placement for each fellow that comes on the program, not just for us, but for anyone who implements the PFP. And we are different in that sense because we bring everyone to Oklahoma as a group, and all our placements happen in Oklahoma. We see, as you know, people every day. The group stays together as a group throughout the entire 5 weeks that they're here. Other implementers do it differently. They would identify a placement for, let's say, you, Natasha, and that could be in Chicago, and they would send you your ticket and a name of an organization that you're going to be with and an address for a homestay, and you go there on your own steam. And you only meet the other people when you're in Washington on the program, and that's also when you meet your organization that is implementing your program. But we do it differently. We keep everyone here. That is, in our view, a big advantage of our program because of the bonds that people establish over time. But at the same time, it also puts a burden on, as you know, Oklahoma is not the biggest state, with not the most number of businesses. So in the sense, it does put a burden on us to find those placements that are really tailor-made for what people want to do, given the smaller pool that we have. But what we do is we look at the application, obviously. We look at the interview notes that we make while we interview people. We ask people to fill out a pre-departure questionnaire, and all of those things together help us identify from our network of businesses or connections where would we be able to find an organization that can meet the needs and expectations that someone would have for coming on the program. At the same time, we also work with the organizations because, as you can imagine, they take someone in that they've never seen or heard about or barely even know anything about your country. They take you in for 4 weeks, and many organizations open their financial statements and all their meetings and their connections with their shareholders and their boards and all of those things. So we also need to make sure that their expectations are met, because it takes out a big chunk of their time, and we need to see how we can find a synergy between what you expect and what the organization is going to get out of it. They need to benefit from it in a way that it makes this a good investment for them for 4 weeks. We also look at personalities for to the extent that we can by just never meeting people until they get here. But it's a real balance, and Jeff Moore, who primarily works with us on this, calls it an arranged marriage, and in a way, I guess it is like that.
Indeed, Elani, like for me, I would say I was placed in 46 VC and I was a little skeptical about it initially, but I think that arranged marriage really worked out and I was introduced to so many more networks and connections just because of that one placement. So, yes, it's a very, tailored approach. And it's not just matching resumes, it's actually about creating an experience that benefits both parties.
Yeah, because like I said, it's they invest time, but also the fellows who come here invest time. They take time out of their businesses, away from their families, although sometimes people welcome that. But it's an investment on both sides, and we have to make sure that it is a meaningful and impactful experience.
That's very true, Elani. I, for one, had a really meaningful and impactful experience with my host, Thalsa Area United Way, and couldn't have wished for a better selection of a host in Brent Sadler and Alison Anthony. This makes me think, that we need to dedicate an episode to our experiences we had with our host and what it brought to our professional and personal life as well. Because everything you mentioned earlier in terms of the placements of our host, I experienced in mine, and I got far beyond what I expected out of it as well.
Well, I think the matchmaking can be extra rewarding if your personality is matched with your host. Like in my case, I absolutely loved it with Brent Wilberger, and Brent and me, we never had a repetition of experience. Every day was unique. He took me from he took me to every place. I think around Oklahoma City to distant Oklahoma towns like Comanche or Kettleman State. We have had experiences together. Well, and he also mentioned one interesting fact as well, that your hosts can also learn a lot from you in cases. And there are many examples of that. And Brent has been, I think, a regular host of the program. And one thing he mentioned to me as well, one thing he loves from our subcontinent is the hospitality we do with people, like in this region of the world. So he basically treated me every day. Anything, he always used to come up and ask me, okay, Minhaj, what do you want to eat today? What are we having today? And he used to take me to all those places. So yeah, absolutely love to do that.
Yes, definitely, Manhaz. I believe that our hosts also learn so much more from us because usually they are unaware of how South Asian culture is and how we are, and they get to know so much more than I believe we know already about them. But they really get to know us. Now let's move ahead on and discuss our first experience on our journey towards Oklahoma. I am sure you all remember my plane incident. On the top of leaving behind my family for a long time, I had the worst food poisoning that started just in the plane. And the paramedics came to rescue me from the plane. And I didn't believe that the first time I would be in US at Miami airport would be on the floor of the Miami airport. Tahira, why don't you share how your journey began? I remember it was quite emotional for all of us leaving our families behind for 5 weeks.
Oh, yes. It was a long journey from Sri Lanka, and I had to leave behind my daughter and my husband for 5 weeks. That was quite nerve-wracking to me as I hadn't been away from them for that long. But honestly, those 5 weeks turned out to be some of the best days of my life. I found an incredible family in all of you, stretched across different lands and oceans. And that bond, that's where the magic really began. One instance was I was really homesick on Mother's Day, but I didn't mention it to anyone. But while we were all hanging out in my duplex, as we always do, Sagar, Gajanan, and Asa just disappeared all of a sudden and came back with gifts for me they had brought from their hometowns and wished me a happy Mother's Day. It was one of the most heartwarming moments I had experienced in a long time. That's one of the many moments in those 5 weeks I realized these people are my people. I'm just getting goosebumps just sharing that story.
I think we are all getting a bit too emotional, so I'm going to drag the volume elsewhere. So let me ask you one thing. So people, do you remember who your IT guy was? And who remembers carrying around two phones? The OU phone that you received on the first day, that all of you had complaints about and tried to do conspiracy with me so that I can try to convince Elani and Kathy about not using it. And also your personal phone, like keeping the WhatsApp there and all that.
I am going to jump in here with why we did that one IT guy for those phones, because the group before you, Ollie's group, Natasha,
Yes.
and if he's here now, he will laugh when he hears the story. But we sat in a room with all of them, and it was almost like a nuclear explosion because people did not pay attention to getting the phone set up. It was, I will not go into detail, but I decided the next group will have a designated phone operator person because yeah, I just couldn't do that same situation again. So Manhas, congratulations that you were the
I'm the
person.
pioneer. Wow.
Okay, okay. So that makes sense. But of course, Kathy had to put Minhas in charge as the IT guy. So you he was setting up all our phones and WhatsApp groups like a pro from day one for sure. And I remember the first time Minhas and I met was when I came to you with my phone. And because I'm so not tech savvy, and I was again one of those people who was like, "Oh, I have to use another second phone." I can, and then as soon as I picked up my phone, you were really upset that I had gotten a really good phone compared to everyone else. Your exact line to me was, "Kathy must really like you because you've gotten the best phone out of all of us." Up to this day, no clue what phone I had during the program.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And when Elani said that our group was really a non-troubling one, we were a very calm and peaceful and bonding group. It's a very feel-good group because our problems included only included things like, okay, I have got a very poor phone, but Tahira has got a really really good phone. So there must be something happening. So these were our day-to-day problems. And it was funny, but I think there was surprise element too because none of us knew what to expect. For me, the day one, I think I loved the weather. Like although we almost got caught in the rain, and Kathy then arrived like superhero to save us. But well, it had its perks, of course. And after returning, well, we had this forms, a stipend, and also a detailed schedule printed for us. So some people were saying like, okay, we're back to school again or college once over again. Well, that happened, I think.
Oh my God, Minhas, don't remind me about your phone. I knew I cannot deal with two phones. I knew I have to solve this problem. And sorry, the next cohorts, because now the host is here and she's definitely going to be vigilant about it. I found a South Asian hack. Nobody knew what I did. Just in the end, I think I told some people that this is what I did. I didn't want to create any alarms, any chaos. I just knew I have to solve this problem for me because I cannot carry two phones. So I used the OU SIM in my personal phone. The OU phone was there in my drawer constantly. I made a second WhatsApp business account, and then I logged in both WhatsApp and my phones, and I was done. I was like, great, nobody knows, I'm safe, and I can just not carry two phones.
Smart. Don't expect that from you, but still smart. So I just turned on my room, and don't even get me started. When I landed, the first thing I saw was I never imagined they would become my closest friend. The first few nights, I was a workaholic because of time zone differences and managing team and everything back home. So I was screaming here at my laptop and on my team and back at home in the middle of the night. At the same time, in my next room, Ifran Bhai was doing the same thing. He was screaming in that room. So in the middle of night, we both came out of the room and we looked at each other and like, oh, we are on the same boat, bro. But then I met you all, and everything just changed. From that day to the last day, I never touched the laptop.
Sagar and his obsession with Pakistanis, it's just unbelievable, and I think it will go till the end. There is no end to it. But you're right. The Minhas, like you mentioned about the schedule as well, it was endless, but I think it was very detailed. Each and every fellow had all the details in it. Honestly, it was a bit overwhelming at times, but I think I was really impressed with how well it was organized, managing 20 people from different cultures, traditions, religions, and languages, and keeping them at one place together and safe was, I'm sure, not a small job. And all of you, Ilani, Kathy, and all of you did an amazing job, I believe.
Thank you.
Small but significant. Do you all remember those van journeys? Before any trip, we would run to David's van, blasting music and singing our hearts out while he drove like chaiya, chaiya, chaiya. And I believe he secretly loved it.
And that's where I taught all of you the changing the light bulb dance. Yes, to the Sri Lankan song Bailaga with the remix Kerala. We sang, danced, and shared our cultural experiences throughout. And David would drive some of us to Tulsa and back. And he always went out of his way to take care of us in every single way possible. He made sure to spoil me whenever he could, from patiently walking endless with me so I can shop, taking me on an occasional CVS run, to making pit stops on our drives back to Norman from Tulsa. Thanks to him, I missed my father a little less while I was in Oklahoma.
I think we probably have to make another episode on David solely because this is a man of
Yeah.
culture. I mean, this dude, he's a, he is a veteran. He was a veteran, and like, well, they say he is a veteran. He corrected me that day. He said that we never say was. We always say that in the present tense that he is a veteran, and he plays video games like religiously, like me. So he felt like a very young man and like a very good friend of mine the moment we met. And he cooks. Uh, and he can mingle with anybody, and he's an amazing driver, of course. And but we all know that what happened in terms of the mission of running towards the seat beside the driver's seat. So in yes, the most thought out cars were Elani's and David's, of course. And in the beginning of the cohort, I think it used to be a competition, but after a number of days, I think everyone understood and accepted that if they can have me in the car, so that seat is probably better reserved for me because I can play the best music that suits everyone's heart and soul and whatnot. So yeah,
Yeah, like we have discussed so many things in previous episodes about our
oh yeah,
journey.
I think we discussed this about the
Yeah,
previous episode. Sorry.
yeah. From our van songs and pond nights and eating food, and list goes on. But One thing we never talked is how we used to visit interesting places on Saturday, Sundays, like that Chickasaw Museum and that Cowboy Museum. And my favorite was Bowlingham, where we had beaten Elanie, of course. And that laser tag game where Natasha won, but by cheating. So,
And where I scared the living daylights out of Rafi by sneaking up on him.
Really, Sagar, call it
Yes.
whatever you want, but it was a lifelong satisfaction for me. You lost to me. I'm so happy.
no, no, no.
And I actually, while you're talking about it, Sagar, I actually miss David's van, and how we all vibed in it. Yes, maybe Monday mornings were a little boring where we all were sleeping when we were traveling to Tulsa, but during the weekend it was like a party van. So I think we all created beautiful memories in the journeys that we made.
So,
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that Chickasaw Museum, that was a highlight for me. It was on top of my list before I went to the US. And when we got there, when they picked us to dance, oh my God, I was like, that is it. That was just one of the epic moments for me. But do you guys remember when we went to the indoor rock climbing experience? Um, at first, I was really hesitant, but after some time, I just couldn't get enough of it. Yeah, we shared so much during those weeks. Just when I thought I'm really content and I don't need any more family or friends, life throws me a curveball and picks me up from Sri Lanka and puts me with all of you in the middle of the US for 5 weeks. And as a result, I found another family to cherish. To cherish. Hell, we even fought like any family would, and we loved deeply and made up like a family would. Right, Sagar?
yeah, always,
Well,
always up for
on
a fight.
yeah. Well, I found a sister for life in my roommate Jags, to put it simply. And Ranjula, Anika, and Jags will always be my partners in crime for life. And Gajanan will always be the first friend I ever made in PFP, who I used to go steal Indian teplas from every morning. uh, Rizvi and MSI, uh, and Jags and I shared this unique yin and yang connection that not many people understood. And then the notorious Starstruck crew, Natasha, we were the best. Come on. Like, and Minhas, let's not even start with us, my resident caretaker and bestie. And the list goes on and on. I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to spend those magical weeks with.
Summer of 69. Everyone has summers of 69 in life, and for us, well, 2023 summer is definitely, well, it will be called spring officially because it was a spring cohort. But yeah, that time is definitely the one for us. And I think for me, I loved all the things that you mentioned, of course, and I cannot start taking names this episode. It's, I think, going to be a very long one. So, but I should mention Rafi because all the things that both of us did together, all the mishaps, mischiefs, and all the fun we have had together, uh, that was amazing. That was, I think, the best you can have in only the span of 45 days, 45 days. For me, I think I love the long drives and the travels most. One of the other reasons why you could find me at the seat beside the drivers anytime, because every time you used to ride, why because we enjoyed the mutual energy together. And that's why Trina, David, Brandy, everyone loved to have me beside, even Kathy. And Elani, well, it was it was fun and an honor playing music for you, I'd like to say. And eating at new places, exploring the unknown, the museums, both the happy and the sad ones, of course. Doing something crazy together, um, going a little bit out of the rules and schedules at times, but not too much. eating a dish for the first time together, singing a chorus together. I think I enjoyed these little things most, these tiny memories, these tiny feelings, but tiny yet the most significant ones. I would never forget the sky above the OU Stadium during the tornado night. It almost felt like Hawkins from Stranger Things. In Georgetown, Washington, the piano club and the late night adventures in the hotel. So those were the best among the best. The program, I think, is like a little like Hotel California. So you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
That's so true, Minhas. I honestly feel like we'll never fully leave 2023 behind. The friendships and connections we made during that time are truly priceless. It's incredible how, in such short period, we formed such deep and heartwarming bonds. How do you even make friends who feel like family in just 5 weeks? How do you do that? The special bond we shared with Essen, the impression manager, Afrasiab, the changed man, we named him, remember? Tahira? And then Honey, wherever he would go, he would be like, excuse me, and he would
Excuse
keep on
me.
going around that. And then Ifran Bhai, I would also like to mention he is like one of those gentlemen like you, very sophisticated man.
Yes.
So, and also,
Always.
you know, how the Tulsa group always missed the Norman group, even though we were having our own fun, but we would constantly miss them. And one moment I vividly remember is when we were missing each other so much, and we met halfway at the OKC Ferris wheel, and we were so happy to see each other, and it was just beautiful. All right, Alani. Yeah,
Okay,
you
let's
have shared so much valuable insight into the program, and we have already discussed, I think, gone beyond our time as well. But now let's switch gears and have a little fun. This will be a rapid fire segment. Each one of us will say a topic, and you will state what are your personal favorites from any of the 5 countries, the USA, where you live, and 4 of our beloved from the subcontinent. You can only pick one per topic, the first that comes to your mind. Minhas, go.
Happy memory.
okay. This one is in Bangladesh. Um, it was one summer after an exchange program, an outbound exchange. Um, it was in Sylhet. It rained like crazy for days. Um, it was just the most amazing rain I've ever seen. I never slept for several days, just sat and watched the rain, listened to the rain falling, and watched the sunrise, and then went outside and walked and saw these women in their beautiful clothing, just colorful dresses, as they work in the tea gardens and as they carry these massive amounts of tea leaves on their heads with their bare feet. They would just walk in this muddy, like dirt roads, kind of, and everything was so quiet. And if I had to pick one of the 3 happiest times of my life, that would be it. 10 years ago.
Heart touching moment.
Oh, okay. This was also in Dhaka. Sorry.
Too much Bangladesh.
We were on our way to a film studio, and one of our fellows was involved in producing films in Dhaka, and we went to visit his business. And we were walking through the streets because it was kind of hidden in an area that we couldn't reach with a vehicle. And I had my camera with me, and I was just walking around looking at different things. And the next moment, I saw this little kid and he was probably only like 3 or 4 years old, and he was standing on a little wall outside his house, and he was just perfectly framed with this beautiful, colorful laundry hanging from a line, and he was on this wall, and he was just standing there, and it was so beautiful and so perfectly framed, and he was wearing this little white sleeveless t-shirt, and I took a picture of him and he smiled, and then I took several more pictures, and then I walked over to him and I showed him his pictures on my camera. And he was so shy, but he was so impressed by the fact that he could see himself on my camera. And later that year, I went back to Dhaka. That year, I was in Dhaka 7 times. Um, and I decided that I'm going to find him so that I can give prints of these pictures that I have taken of him for his family so that they can have it. And I printed the pictures, I framed them, and I went back on a mission to find him and to give this to his family. And I mean, you know how it is with streets there. There's no like real names or numbers or anything. And I had to find him, but I took a whole day, went out with this friend and finally found him and found his family and gave them the pictures of him. And they were so happy and so overwhelmed by the fact that they had this as a memory of him. Yeah, that was one of many heartfelt moments or heart touching moments. What was your question?
That's beautiful. Yeah. I think you told me this story when you were in Sri Lanka as well. Yeah. Okay. Me next. Favorite place?
Oh, there's many, and I think I favorite place to me would just be in the streets, on the streets somewhere in your countries. Like being out in the middle of the night and just if it's like toward the end of the day and it's late in the evening, it's so busy and the streets are packed with people and everyone is out and people are just doing their thing and there's all this noise and all these smells and it just never ends really with the amount of energy that's out there. But then you can go out on those same streets early in the morning before the sun rises and it would be so quiet. Like no people, no traffic. And it always has a certain smell to me and a certain kind of peace that you can just be there without any interruptions. You can walk on the railroad tracks, or you can be on a bike and you can zoom through the streets and stop at a park and just sit there or walk through different areas without a lot of people there. And to me, that contrast between, on the one hand, it's so chaotic and so full of life, and on the other hand, it's so quiet.
All right. Food.
Oh, um, I love spicy food. So I kind of love all the food that you guys have there, but I would say beef curry would be my favorite food by far. I have joked often, and I hope I'm never in this situation, but if I'm on death row sometime for some reason and I had to pick a final meal, it would be beef curry. That's the thing I love most of everything there. The only thing I don't like is borhani. I can,
You mean biryani,
yeah,
the rice biryani.
no,
Borhani,
no,
okay.
borhani. It's like this salty, peppery, milky drink
Oh,
Yeah.
that they have in Bangladesh.
okay.
Sorry, no,
I'll get you one. Now they have like variations. They have sweet borhani as well now. So I'll get you a sweet borhani next time you come.
I'm not a milk person. I think that's where the problem comes in.
Okay, Tahira, you go.
Okay. Elanie, sunset.
Oh, this is a recent one. When I was there in January in Sri Lanka and we were at Gulf Fort, that was one of the days that I think I felt like a royalty in a way. To imagine myself being rich and famous and just having all these people that would make life so wonderful for me. We were sitting on this hill overlooking the ocean and the sun was setting and there were thousands of people because that's where people go to watch the sunset. But we had our little spot and there was blankets and there was wine and there were pillows. And I think that's what people felt like in the old days when they were the colonialists invading all of our countries. Like they were just everything was there for them. But it was so beautiful, and we just sat there and watched the sunset and watched people jump off this massive rock into the ocean. And um, that was one time when I really needed to feel safe and to feel like I belong somewhere. And that was my sunset.
Yeah, that was a special moment. That was really nice. And I'm so happy we shared that with you, Elanie.
Yeah, so Sri Lanka has one of the beautiful sunset. I can agree with you. People.
Okay, again, this would be more of a generic answer, but I'm always so impressed when I'm there or when I meet people from your countries about how people have this life in their eyes, in spite of the fact that they are facing so many different challenges. I love sitting in the like van or transportation or whatever we have when we are there, and just watching people and taking pictures of them because that so many people face so many challenges, but they have something in their eyes that make them persevere. And the kids always smile. They just smile so easily. Even if it's raining like cats and dogs and they have to walk in the streets and there's mud everywhere, somehow they find something in that that gives them a reason to go on and to be happy and or at least look happy to me. I mean, I am an outsider, so I will again not claim that I know exactly, but they smile so easily and they when you play with them or pay attention to them, they're just so overwhelmed and happy. And then I think to me also the kindness of people who just normal people who work there. Whether it's someone at a hotel security or someone at opening a door for you at a restaurant or someone in the hotel lobby when you come back after you've been out the whole day. They're so kind and so helpful and just always willing to smile and to I like those kinds of people.
It's almost inspiring and so beautiful at the same time. How beautifully you find energy in this part of the world. Like you find it almost overwhelming, I think. So, my last question to you, topic, which is festival.
Festival? Let me say what I want to have on my bucket list as a festival, and that would be Holi. That's how you say it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
One day before I die, I want to not experience a fake Holi in Oklahoma City or Norman. I want to be in the real country where this happens and experience that. That is something that I will still do. I know that.
you should come
One,
to
one,
Holly, and it's my responsibility to take you to Jaisalmer, where best their Holly they play. So
Okay.
most welcome.
just one piece of advice, Elani. So if you take Natasha with you during the Holi, do not stay anywhere near Natasha and Sagar. Okay, friendly advice.
Why
Okay.
you are ruining my experience? Why?
Good
Why
advice,
you want to?
Manhas, because I know that I am going to ruin this guy with all kind of colors, dirty colors.
Here's the reason, Neha. That's the reason for this is the reason for my answer. I think the only thing that I've really experienced there, just given the timing of different things, was the kite festival in Ahmedabad.
Yeah, Uttarayan.
And that was, I don't think I've ever been there at a time when there's like a massive celebration of some sort of festival. I always either get there after or right before. That's why I don't have a proper answer to this question.
That's why, Elanie, me and Ehsan offered you one thing, if you remember.
I know.
So that option is always open.
I know. I have not closed the door on that option, so.
All right. So again, it would be a tough one for you, Elanie. We can't let you go without asking who is your favorite cohort?
Good one.
You're just not going to let this go, are you, Natasha? But again, I am vigilant, and I'm not going to cave. Here's what I can say, though, that your cohort was one of very few that I, in a long time, that I have let my walls down and let people in. And that was a mistake on many levels, but it was also immensely rewarding on other levels. So each cohort is unique. And I am not going to single out a specific cohort who is my favorite, but yeah, each cohort brings something that enriches me in significant ways. And that is why I love this program and why I will hopefully be able to keep doing it for a long time.
Thank you, Elanie, for being with us today. It was a pleasure to have you with us today and walk down that memory lane with you again. It feels like I'm still in 2023. We'll be in touch and hopefully we'll see you next year on your host visit to one of our countries. Really, really excited to see you soon.
Thank you for having me and yeah, for also making me remember all these different things. Again, double-edged sword, but good. I also look forward to keeping up with what you all are doing and good luck with the show. It's really cool to see that you're doing it and all the different topics you have. And yeah, thank you for having me.
It's incredible how this program wasn't just about professional growth, but about real human connection. We came from different countries, different cultures, yet here we are today, still close friends. It's almost more than 1 year, and we are still close friends. This program gave us more than just skills, it gave us friendships that span borders, and we at the Four Horsemen Show are representing that bond beyond borders.
Exactly, and as I said earlier, it's like Hotel California, so you can never leave. So we are going to come back every single time, and we are going to sing those songs for you. And hopefully, you will join us in the chorus as well. Thank you for from the Four Horsemen Show.
Agreed, Minaz. Our personal and professional lives were changed forever by this experience, and it was one of the life-changing experience. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I can say for certain this experience has made me push myself out of my comfort zone and to heights I never dared to go before. For example, before the Four Horsemen Show, I would never put my face in front of a screen or even speak. So, yeah. I also believe that we are much more than four friends from four countries. We are proof that when we work together, magic really does happen.
Thank you all for listening to the Four Horsemen Show, Bonds Beyond Borders. We hope our journey inspires you to cross borders, literally and figuratively. Until next time, keep those bonds strong. And remember, the world is a lot smaller when you've got friends on the other side. Thank you.
True.
Bye-bye.